EMB, and she's also the manager of the Starcrest Garden Bill. I turn it over to you.
Thank you, David. You know, while we were all introducing and saying our names, the one thing that I heard from everybody is the word want. Everybody wants to live a better life. We want to have a healthier lifestyle, and we need to convert from our old way of thinking. Unfortunately, we come from a generation. I was fortunate to be raised around my grandparents, where they did a lot of things very naturally. However, we went through this phase where we were introduced to so many chemicals, and chemicals were introduced to so many things in our life. Our foods and canning, the medications that we took. Sometimes the disclaimers on the labels, I look at the side effects of taking medication, and sometimes I think I'd rather stay awake all night than have all the side effects from some of those sleep aids. The other thing that happened was our water became more contaminated. We were putting so many chemicals on our fields to produce more farming. Where did that go? It rained and it all ran off into our rivers, into our groundwater. It was absorbed. And like David was saying, that shows up. It's in the soil. It's there. It's in the water for years, 20, 50 years. It takes forever for it to be broken down. The one thing that can remove contamination is beneficial microbes. We're going to have to rethink the whole way that we're doing our water treatment systems and using aerobic and anaerobic tanks for cleansing it. Avoid chlorine and fluoride. We did fine without it before. What happened? Is fluoride in our toothpaste enough? Why did we have to put it in our water? And I heard the same arguments that everybody else did, but I don't see why we can't supplement it in some other way, or find something else that benefits us in the same way that fluoride does. But I could carry on about organic everything. So I'm going to try and stay focused on stormwater. The first thing, the little handout I gave you, is just a list of topics. The first thing we want to focus on is, where does stormwater go? The rainwater hits every surface that's exposed. As it's running off of those surfaces, it's taking little pieces of it. It's taking pieces of things that drip out of our vehicles. It's taking things that we've thrown away. Oil, a can of oil that you put in your vehicle goes into a trash can, goes somewhere. That's why those contaminated and pollutants need to be disposed of in the city's disposal service. We should not be putting things like that, because it goes straight to the landfill. The landfill it's in the ground, it's being rained on, and all of that is being absorbed into our groundwater, because the groundwater goes from the soil down to the plateau, and that is where we're getting our drinking water. Unmanaged stormwater can also cause flooding, and unfortunately in this area we live in, I've been here since I was 5, and I have seen an increase in flooding in conjunction with an increase of development. Now, the builders are doing the best they can to keep up with every area that they develop in, but it's very overwhelming. When you think about everything that happens in a construction site, there's painters, there's concrete people, there's people paving the roads. There's so many different things going on at a construction site while it's being built, let alone after it's built, and they start selling the homes, and then people come in and they start altering the terrain. Everything that we're doing is affecting how our stormwater is running, where it's going. It's ending up in gutters. It's carrying debris. If we could rethink what we do with this resource. It used to fall and be absorbed into the ground, and we would use it as well water or as drinking water that was pumped out. But now it's just running into the gutters and into the streams, and it's ending up in the lakes and the rivers. And unfortunately, it's also flooding Gonzales, and further down, like David said, everything that's happening here is also taking place further down our rivers. The Parks and Wildlife Department and a lot of local volunteers record our water quality. They record for recreation purposes and for consumption. Overall, the most concerning thing that they're finding, and they have a website that has got 20 pages of different reports and things that they research and that they test. The thing that they're finding is that there's an ecosystem of moss and algae, aquatic plants, fish, and even the little crustaceans. They're not as productive as they had been years ago. This is a result of contamination in our water. Landa Park has been found to have so many endangered fish, the smallest things we never would have thought. I used to play out there. We would get crawdads out of the spring, where you can't even go now because it's such a delicate area. It has been affected by all of the development and runoff that's coming out of even our natural springs are being affected. The over-contamination is affecting this balance. This means that too much algae is grown because there's fish or aquatic life that was not abundant enough to consume it. It creates too much shadows, too much thickness in the water. Bacteria starts growing underneath there, in the algae. And nobody's going to go under, I don't know, maybe somebody will have to someday go through and thin that out. But this, again, this is a result of contamination, things that have messed up the balance. The flooding. Anytime there's, even when you purchase a home, you decide, okay, I want a patio here, I'm going to put a sidewalk here, and I want a stone seating area or a fire pit here. Do the square footage. You just lost that much rainwater absorption for the ground. You just took that much area of space away from the water that we're all living off of, that everyone is needing. And as we grow, the area underneath where the water tables are, it's not changed, but we have more people using it now. And why do we get on water shortages and water restrictions? Because the aquifer level drops so fast now in the last 20 years. You used to not see these things. Abundant water supply. And there's still plenty of water there. It's just we have to regulate it for growth. On a large scale, stormwater management is possible, and it does happen. It has a compliance issue. There's a lot of regulations. It's called a mass balance approach. And what it does is it determines the effectiveness of sediment capture. How they're taking these collections. How effective is this? What are the concentrations of the solids, the particles, and the water quality? These kind of standards are going to require